Yeah.
All right, 8:32, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with privilege of the floor. Anybody, do we have anyone?
I just added introduction for the.
Okay, actually, I was just gonna say that anyway, yeah, please. So we've got a couple of new members that have joined us. Would you like to introduce them, Joanne?
We have Roxanne Turk, she is our new director of development. And when did you start? 2 weeks ago?
February, no, yeah,
17th.
yeah, there you go.
Yes. So a very short time, jumped in with both feet. Doing very well, we're extremely happy.
Very nice.
And this is Keely, she's our new economic development specialist. She started a couple days after that, and she is raring to go. Helped out with the business and community leaders breakfast. She's now up to her neck with planning the conference and manufacturers alliance and updating the website and things. Very happy to have her.
Nice. Would you ladies like to say a few things? Tell us about yourselves.
Sure. I'm a go-getter. I like to learn, and I think that this position will really align my personal aspirations along with greater impact. So I think this is a good lineup for me, and I'm excited to work with everyone here.
Nice. Are you local?
Yes.
Oh, very nice. Nice one.
So I'm local as well. I'm from Krogan. I went to Oswego and I moved to Syracuse and I worked in various nonprofits in Syracuse for a couple of years. And then I had my baby and I wanted to move back home, so I'm back in
Yes.
Krogan and yeah.
Well, welcome home. How old's the baby?
She's 15 months.
Oh, nice. Some scary times. Running around. Well, glad to have you both. Thank you. Oh.
And the baby put the baby to work, and yeah, Roxanne's grandson putting it to work.
Oh, nice. Okay, junior members coming up. Anybody get a chance to look at the meetings from February 5th? Or did everybody? Yes. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion. I'll second. For a second. Did everybody get a chance? Oh, all in favor? Or do I need to do that for that? No, right? For the meetings? Okay, all in favor? Yes. Okay. There was a special board meeting, which I wasn't there at, but I did read through it. Any questions, concerns about that, and did everybody get a chance to look at this?
Becky, you want to take like a quick second to sort of explain why we saw that meeting?
Yeah, so the meeting was called because McRes Packing International was unable to get the amount required in our pilot agreements for liability insurance on his property because it's not a running business currently, it's just a property with future improvements. So we had to call a special meeting in order to obtain a resolution from the board to approve the lower amounts. And then with that, it was time sensitive because we had to have the pilot filed at a county prior to the March 1st deadline for the tax assessment rolls so that he could be put on a pilot program for this coming tax year. So I appreciate everybody that showed up. I know it was a last minute thing, but everything was filed, taken to the county last week, so we should be set.
And we lowered it from 4 to 2.
We lowered it from 5, so he had a general liability of 2 million. Our pilot requires 1. He was able to get 2 in general liability.
Okay.
And then the excess liability, he couldn't get the 5 that was required in the pilot. He was able to get 2.
Okay.
And we approved that with an agreement that within 12 months, he'll be able to increase that to the 5.
It'll be a working facility.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. If there's no questions, we can move on to the financials. Oh, no, I'm sorry, make a motion to approve the special board meeting minutes, please. Jerry, for a second. All in favor? Okay, all right.
So financials, these are from, the statement of activity here is from the start of our calendar year through the end of January. Nothing, huge and major going on currently. Obviously, we have pilot payments that were still coming in and out in January. At this point, we just have a couple of payments left to send out. We're waiting on 2 payments to be sent in, so a little bit of delay there. What I did do this month, as it was requested, if we go down to this section right here, so As we've continued to discuss the business park, Commerce Park, project with the county, this is also on LCDC's radar, but I wanted to show what sort of liquidity we have right now in all of our funds. And not just what's available, but what we've committed to using of those funds, just so there's a breakdown. So we know moving forward. Jenna, if you wanna scroll down just a touch. So right now, the liquidity that we have is that $930,000. Again, that's also assuming with the CDs that we have that are maturing in early June, including those funds. So right now, that's what we have liquid that we have not committed to be spent elsewhere. So if something comes up with a Commerce Park and it's put to the IDA to front some money for that, everyone here is aware of what we have to work with on that. Any questions at all on that? Okay, keep going, Jenna. Again, these are the. Sorry, I'm just scroll down. We've got the financial position. It is a high number right now because of the pilot payments going out. And then as far as the vendor expenses, this is also a high number for us because all of the payments that were sent out to the taxing jurisdictions for the pilot programs in the month of January. Any questions at all from anybody on the financials?
If no questions, I'll take a motion to approve. Herb, Jess second. All right. The CD's not mature till June, correct?
That's correct, June 5th is the date on those.
All right, we'll move on to the items for approval, please.
So the MPI equipment leaseback, when we had our special meeting, we started a bit of a discussion on if we are fronting $600,000 on this equipment for MCRES. Is it worth exploring the idea of including a lien on the property itself for this equipment? Because again, we are only financing the equipment that's above ground for this, so that if push came to shove, it could be removed and sold, but obviously that's gonna depreciate quite a bit if that has to happen. So it was brought up that we should probably consider putting a lien on the property so that he has a little bit more skin in this and we have a bit more security in financing that large of a project for it. It's the large project for us to purchase as far as an equipment lease back. So just more or less, if we want to approve that, if we just want to further this discussion, reach out to our attorney to get some more information on how that works. I know with LCDC, so Black River Valley Naturals has a loan through LCDC, and with that loan, we have a lien on the property as a second lien holder. So it's not that it hasn't been done before, and I think could be done. So really just up to the board to discuss a bit further and what everyone feels might be best to move forward on that, again, to secure.
We do it all the time. So it's basically like a refinance.
Yeah, okay.
Where you basically put this amount, because you're gonna have your lien obviously on the equipment as well, but yeah, as commercial loans we do it all the time.
So what does that mean? Essentially, we become a second place creditor?
It would depend on what the order of liens are on his property and other loans he has against the property, but yes, we would just kind of fall in line down that list.
So let's say the first lien holder exercises their lien and there's nothing left. Right?
Yeah, so basically if there's, I'm gonna pull it up right now and see if there is, but if there's $1 million loan against it already.
Yeah.
And then they sue to foreclose,
Yeah.
whatever it sells for at auction, if
Yeah.
it's 1.2. Number one gets taken from it,
Satisfies,
yeah, and then it goes to number two, so we may end up with nothing.
Right, okay, that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to get.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right, we may end up with nothing.
Are there
And then,
fees, are there fees, or who pays the fees incurred with become?
It would just be, I think, we include that into the agreement and then file it with the county, correct, as lien holder.
Do we have to pay mortgage? Well, we wouldn't pay it, do they have to pay mortgage tax on it?
Correct. I'd have to look back probably to see how that works. I mean, he typically on any of these, he pays the fees, like with the pilot filing fees, he's paying the fees on filing the pilot, so I think that would be how we.
Yeah, that was my only question is
Yeah.
carrying with the.
I've got a question, so like, when you're explaining, there might be already lien holders on the property. That comes in order, right, so like when we sold the property, knowing what he wanted to do, what if we were,
No liens on it. Okay.
So.
Assuming I'm looking at the right parcel, but yeah.
For future reference, like if we're going into business with somebody, we sell them a property. Knowing that they are going to have some sort of industrial sector. Would we wanna do this from the get-go? Or that way we were, depending on the structure of the deal, that way we're number one in line?
So,
Is that
yes,
how it works?
if we're holding it back, which I don't know that we can do that. I know there are restrictions on what we can loan and what we can't.
Yeah.
But in theory, yes, if we're selling it, you wanna sell it as a purchase money mortgage. Which I don't know that would be the IDA, but one of our entities, you would do it as a purchase money mortgage, which means we're in first place, no matter what, even if there's creditors, previous lien holders, no matter what. If we're giving them the money to then turn around and purchase this property, it's a purchase money mortgage, and you're always in priority in first position. So yes, I don't know if it would be IDA, but LCDC or whatever it may be, yes, that should always be part of the deal that we're gonna sell it. Here's the funding for it, if we're involved in the funding for it, we're priority, we're first place, we're purchase money mortgage. Yeah, I think that would be.
So there being no lien on this, does that mean there's no loan against it?
At least against this, there's not,
So here's a question then, why would he borrow against that property and self-finance rather than borrowing from us?
Diane, I think that was the plan 4 years ago,
Okay,
but because it's been delayed so long.
yeah,
There was never anticipated to be a pilot on this property 4 years ago. But the circumstances changed when the whole project was drawn out.
yeah,
I think its finances changed over time.
is that still a possibility or no?
I don't know if it would appraise for enough
To get
as
money?
it sits to pull $600,000 out of it to.
Oh, okay, got it,
Yeah,
okay,
cause if he was going to refinance the property itself, it would have to appraise, I mean, it's probably like an 80-20 for
Okay.
appraisal for a lender, so I don't know if it would appraise for.
okay, now as far as liens go, are they for a certain dollar amount or?
It would be for the amount that we're financing, I believe, correct, for the 600,000.
So,
But the
And whatever that
equipment's
is,
worth
that
something
goes
too though,
down.
right?
The equipment is
That's
worth
where you're
it.
kind of
So yeah,
stuck
I
with
guess. The difference if we had to sell the equipment or if it came back on us to sell the property,
Yeah,
to
so,
be honest, usually when I do a commercial loan, so for community bank, when I do a commercial loan, I take it against the property. But I also do a UCC filing against the equipment in it,
okay,
so I mean, I guess I do kind of double dip.
well, that's what I'm going, right, so we have the equipment's, we could sell it. And let's say we get 500 for it, then we have a lien on the land and we satisfy the other 100. By the lien, execution of the lien,
Yeah,
right? And whatever that may be, like I'm saying, since we don't know the depreciation of it ahead of time or when this might happen. We have to sort of rely on whenever it happens and recuperating our costs. Now, here's another thing, if the equipment's worth 600. It automatically will depreciate over time. So. If he defaults, are we recuperating the entire 600? Or are we recuperating,
I would think we'd be recuperating whatever the principal balance is. on
oh, okay,
that
got it,
equipment.
alright,
correct, cause you get it, you'd be doing it from two different standpoints, if the lien is for, he's paid it down, so now it's $550,000.
Yes.
We foreclose, we force the sale of the equipment, it
Okay.
sells for 500,000.
Okay.
We get our 500 grand there, we get a judgment for the 50,000.
understood, okay,
Like judgment is useless, it's not even worth the price of the paper without this lien against the property.
okay, got it, okay. Yeah. So I think, I mean, there should be no detriment to him to have a lien. And it'd be helpful for us to have as a safety standpoint,
A bank would do it,
right, yeah,
yeah, a bank would be hitting
Yeah,
it
from
from
a
side.
security standpoint, or that we have it.
And we can always release or
Right.
adjust the mortgage in the future to accommodate that as
I think
well.
that makes a lot of sense to me, yeah. Do you need a vote for that?
I think we should have a vote in writing so that when I have Kevin or whoever, we're at the point of purchasing this equipment, draft the agreement that we can include it.
Do you wish to talk to him first to see if he's okay with it, or he has no, I mean,
I think he's gonna be fine with
I
whatever direction
figured
the
it
work gives.
yeah.
I think also in discussing this equipment purchase a bit further.
Good.
I know he was hoping to have the equipment purchased, he's still waiting on the final DEC approval on the equipment. To say that everything's fine and it meets these standards for your permit, et cetera. There's still open permits that haven't been satisfied yet at the town level.
Okay.
So I think I'd also like to recommend that we hold off on ordering really anything, I mean, even he needs to have full approval by
Sure.
the town at this point, which we had a phone call yesterday with the town supervisor pushing back on the pilot.
Okay.
Which we're hoping to have further conversation today with the Hodgkins Russ about some of that pushback, so. There's still a bit of things up in the air on this, so I'm not saying. If he calls me today and says that we're ready to order that, we aren't ready to order it.
Got it.
We're gonna have to get full approval from the town that this project's gonna be a go-ahead. Pilot stuff all satisfied, even though it's been filed, and so we're not gonna put the trigger on this.
Okay.
Before the next meeting by any means, but I think having it on record that we're going to put the lien on the property would be good to move forward if things do line up quicker than we
Okay,
think.
so we'll, who would like to make a motion for proceeding with a lien on the property before anything else proceeds in any other way? Anybody like to make that motion? Herb, you said, Jess, second, all in favor?
I'd like
Any
to
yes?
have it state clearly that, I mean, maybe it's assumed, but that any fees incurred would be the
Oh,
responsibility.
good point, okay, yes.
Yep.
Look at you, don't say it.
No, just
That's good, that's good.
details.
I know, thank you for the very kind email to Jenna. I read it and I'm like, oh shit, that's so nice. All I said was we're sad, see you later. But that was so eloquently written. Next time I'm gonna wait till Darlene and be like, what she said. Alright, anyway, okay, so that's good, the revolving loan fund?
Yeah, so the revolving loan fund.
Sorry,
Oh, no,
yeah, I'm just getting too into this now, so I pulled it up. The lease we actually just did with McRez may prevent them from getting outside funding, so where you were on that. Because the lease we just did with McRez, there's a section in here about liens that says that they cannot get any liens outside of our approval.
On the property.
Okay.
So that also,
No, what are the lead?
we're fine,
Oh,
but
okay.
we were talking about
Well,
why,
that's why
you go
the-
figure it out.
Ah, okay, okay.
Technically.
Understood.
yeah,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Alright, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, okay. Thanks, Jess.
Okay, so the revolving loan fund that has been sitting, just idle, in one of our IDA accounts, it's about $98,000. This was from 12-13 years ago. It was USDA funded for, small business grants, programs, things like that. It has fully revolved. It fully revolved several years ago, if not more. We have a couple of options with this that I wanted to discuss with the board. I guess not necessarily approval needed, but just to start this discussion because it's sitting there and we aren't using it because we technically still have to report on it because it hasn't been released by USDA. I'm working on getting access to SAM.gov because the old logins for those accounts are completely expired and old. They're old lewiscounty.gov emails. So I'm working on getting access to that because that's kind of step one. We have a couple of options with this. One, we can request USDA to release the funds since they have been fully revolved. They just passed a program this last summer that would allow them to release it because it was a small grant program. We could do whatever we wanted with them at that point. My recommendation, because LCDC did take over the county funds a couple of years ago that had been fully exhausted in this fund that the LCDC uses as part of a small business fund. Black River Valley Naturalist Club, Artisan Roasters have funds through that loan program. I think that 98,000 would be best used by LCDC to offer those revolving loans moving forward to other businesses that may need them. Jenna and I have been in a couple of conversations with Dank about setting up a more standard loan option for small business loans, or loans that maybe they can't get through typical lenders that LCDC could write loans on that for. And I mean, we see that impact having a stronger impact through LCDC's loan fund by offering those benefits to small businesses. So it's kind of early process. I'm probably, with the way USDA works about that, a couple months out from even having anything solid in place with what we can do with this money. But those are the couple of options. It is still IDA money that was given by USDA. So it's ultimately up to the IDA to decide what to do with it, but I would need approval from both boards before anything happens with that money.
a business can only borrow 25,000 of that.
Yeah, Jen, I know we have like, we're still kind of working out standards with Dank on that as far as what those loans would look like, repayment terms, interest rates, things like that. And again, it's just to kind of give businesses, especially kind of startup businesses that don't have the financial history to get a regular loan from the bank in the commercial lending sector, an option to get startup funds or equipment upgrades, things like that that are needed. So we're still working out a lot of those details, but
If we don't have to abide by the USDA guidelines anymore because it's fully revolved, we have a little bit more flexibility. Dank has given us some recommendations of how to set it up, similar to their other loan funds that they have through NCA and bank. So I think there might be some flexibility to go up to 50,000 with some of those funds. But I think with the LCDC as like the main grant loan entity, I think it would make a lot of sense to keep all of those funds in one place. And the IDA can focus more on the tax incentive pieces.
Is there any difference in the restrictions in the loan, whether through us or?
We can look back at that chart of LCD or LDCs versus IDAs. I think it's more beneficial
It
from
is,
the
I looked at the chart, yeah,
LCDC
okay.
standpoint.
Yeah.
But it would still be used for startup, or
Um,
it'd be more flexible.
I think it's flexible, it's dependent, they're gonna have to be secured loans through equipment or furniture, things like that.
I believe that's what I used when we started.
Yeah.
this, so,
Yep, it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have any problem with it going to that. I'll see.
so if we wanna do a motion to approve, I can at least get that out of the way if everybody's comfortable with that. And then once I get LCDC's approval to accept them, then it'll kind of help me in my steps moving forward through USDA and all of those. It's 98,000 and some change. It's a really low interest earning account for us. I think it's like 0.013. We don't. It's not sitting there like we're generating anything on it. It's really, it hasn't changed from 98,000. I mean, it's going up like $10 every month, maybe if we're lucky. So it's just sitting there stagnant. And I think if we can release them, we would have a lot greater impact through that program that we're working out for LCDC.
Anybody wanna make the motion? For me. Or second, Derek, all in favor? Any against? All right.
We really actually talked about a lot of this. One thing I did wanna talk about is. Cassie, Megan and some others and I did meet with some local school and community leaders to talk about the impact on some projects that are coming up. But I don't know if you've noticed in the news recently, there is a pilot, there's a program in, is it the town of Canton? That project is being sold. And there's the possibility that one of our projects is also going to be sold. So Joe is going to come talk to me and Megan. When he gets back, he's working out of town right now and he will wanna join us. Do we need to talk about what that's going to mean for us, like if we have an existing project and that is sold and there's a pilot agreement attached to that, what will that mean for us? Do we need to make any changes? Megan and I talked about probably that.
Yeah,
Because the formula stuff.
This is a project that's not been approved yet.
Correct, so right now, it might not be as impactful for 3 to 5 years. Maybe some other projects will be sold and we'd like to get ahead of it. We can get ahead of one thing on our list, we think it'll be helpful, and since these conversations are coming up in other communities, maybe we can learn from what they're doing.
In my understanding on that 118, it wasn't so much about the pilot as it was the approvals for the actual project.
Right.
They wanted to force them to come back to the table and make sure they were guaranteeing like host community agreement and following everything that was set up for the first developer.
Right.
Is it, if I'm understanding that correctly?
Yeah, and I mean, there's, again, I haven't been here when those have happened, but I know several of the smaller solar projects that we already have pilots on have been sold out to other companies and they're still honoring the pilot, so I think just kind of digging in more to those pilot agreements, I think we're gonna see more and more of that happening to make sure if you buy this, you're honoring all existing agreements that are in place for the permitting and on the towns and county, you know, that's not really on us, I guess, to manage, but to make sure they're honoring any existing agreements that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they couldn't do that.
Right, it is a
They
contract that they're
contract,
taking over.
so,
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't looked at our pilot that closely.
No, that's why I'm saying, I don't think
the
the pilots, I think they would just
Yeah.
transfer to the new owner, no issues at all.
essentially lease.
This was more the town's permitting saying, yeah, maybe we're not so sure with this developer, are they gonna honor the things that they promised?
Well, we do have some contracts with other projects that do have. You know, what if. You know, a company ABC, if we have contracts with them, what if that company is sold, we maybe need to consider putting some language into our contracts. To make sure that if they're sold, all of that carries over so that everything that we were promised, the agreement that we have with the original. Contractor developer carries forward as well.
Yeah, we should probably look at the template that we've been using, but I would be like 90, I'd be very concerned if it didn't have that language in there already. The bigger issue is, we do this all the time, when I meet with someone about windmill or solar project. This company is going to sell out, it's going to file bankruptcy, it's gonna do all of this. So they can write whatever they want on paper, there's no one for you to sue at the end of this. Like, so I think all of our rights should be preserved in these contracts that I'm sure we already have, it's more the reality of. The business world, and if it's a foreign company, good luck suing them, you're gonna sue over there. It's more the reality of how you enforce all of it that I'd be a little nervous about.
But they'll, if they sell to a foreign company, the contracts have to be approved by part of the state. Or-
Yes, but a lot of these companies already are owned by foreign companies and they're part of the umbrella. So that's the one thing I get a little nervous about, a lot of these are foreign owned already.
A lot of it we actually already talked about.
You good there? Any correspondence?
Do you wanna talk about board member recruitment, Joanne? Or-
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
That's okay, we still really haven't. Pinpointed a final name, or we have, I think, 2 or 3 still. Did speak with that one gentleman on the phone, I think Larry's gonna make a final decision on that.
Oh, I thought it was okay with that, if you, there's a board here, it's, yeah,
I don't remember,
Mark O'Connor,
from DOT,
retired.
retired DOT.
So the legislators have already decided?
I don't know if it's been finalized, Larry spoke with him, and he said he's going to, and then I think that's gonna be. the
Because
next
they
step.
have to, right?
Yes, yeah, okay, so that you're waiting for our board.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can't, we can say no, but not, I mean, but we're having input.
We'll take it forward.
Right, I think we wanted to have Larry kind of pinpoint who.
Yep.
He wanted,
Yeah,
bring it back to this board to see if we were comfortable
Right,
with that,
that's what I
and
was
then the
thinking.
legislators.
yeah, as long as everybody's good with that, I'll move it forward.
Yeah, sure.
Is there more interest than Mark? I mean,
Yeah, no, it's-
or is it just,
We
it's
talked
narrowed down to
about-
one?
Yeah. Honestly, it was more of a, would you please serve type conversation.
Because there weren't more,
Right, and we did several of the people that we spoke to were incredibly interested, but either they didn't live or work in Lewis County. They were like maybe seasonal residents, but not primary residents, and maybe like, so if there was like a contractor and they've done some business in Lewis County, it doesn't really mean their business is in Lewis County, but not the same. And other people were, they have young kids and they're busy, or their job doesn't allow for them to be here during the day, and they just don't wanna make that commitment and not be able to honor it. And they all said, keep me in mind for the future, but at this very moment, it's not a good fit now.
Okay.
This is the annual report, it's 20 pages long, if you would like to read through it.
I want to be very well done by the way, the graphics and everything's so nice.
Haley left us with a good template.
Yeah.
We plugged in it, the team helped plug in all the information. Lot of great successes last year. So yeah, take some time and read through it. Any questions on that?
Who's our photographer for that?
We have been using Sweetwater Photography, Ashley Rice is her name, in the last year for a lot of events and
Yes.
shoots with businesses.
Yeah, great work.
Yeah.
Any questions on that, anyone? I read it yesterday, it's fantastic, if you haven't had a chance, it really is very informative and brings you right up to everything that's happened, it's very well done. Alright. Did we talk about, no, so site identification for a business park?
So the committee has met another time since we last met, we're going to be meeting about like the last week of the month, every single month. We do have a plan, we've got some measurables, we've phased things out. Roxanne and I met yesterday with Steve Hunt, the state, and we have another meeting next week with another person who will be helping us identify some things to questions that might get come up if we don't know, right, with some properties. And they will help us identify some funding. That's about how far we are now, just still in the very new planning stages. We did talk about using some potential brownfield sites. And so we might create like a parallel path, brownfield sites and non-brownfield sites to look at. And we're looking through the Comoin Attract What You Want study to see, we talked about using prior emails, which we will, because every once in a while we get emails like, oh, this developer is looking for this property. Those are so all over the place, there's not really a category to say. Roxanne's been taking some time to dig into the Comoin issue analysis that we had created, and we've got some information from there that we can take back to the committee. And just go from there. We are looking forward, but you know, the wheels of progress sometimes are slow, and that's okay, slow and steady. You wanna do it the right way.
Well, yeah, I'd rather put in the time.
Right.
Yes.
I have a question about that, so and I could have missed this in previous meetings, but the project and site development committee. The origin of forming that committee came from LCDC. It didn't come from,
Cheyenne started it
okay,
last year and then I think it's transformed into.
and the primary purpose was to revisit business park.
Property and site development as a whole, there's a plan that was developed for that. And then the business park is kind of an offshoot of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne.
Right, like it's one thing we're discussing, but there is the potential that we could discuss other projects or other.
Okay, so it's not solely focused on.
No,
business
right
park.
now it is, but that doesn't mean that it, right, well,
I think that was my question, because I sifted through like board minutes for, you know, back to prior to myself joining the board, because I wanted to get an understanding. Since I've been involved, I've seen where we have incurred costs and then written them off as it relates to business parks. So I'm just trying to understand, you know, is this a cycle that we're going to pursue and then determine that we're just not located near the thruway or Route 81, and we've again invested. You know, there have been consulting fees, there have been legal fees, there have been investments that exceed a good amount of money. So I'm just wanted to understand, because as our roles shift as boards, in my brain, I need to understand where this is going.
and I'm not fully aware of the history because I wasn't here, but so my understanding of the practices that we have discussed as a committee. We have equal representation across the county, IDA, LCBC, Naturally Lewis, and then, you know, the other stakeholders who could. And then we talked about, like one property the LCBC already owns. And then if there's another property that we're considering, maybe that would be a conversation with the IDA, but we're being very mindful and purposeful and of money. We're also working very closely with New York State for potential funding, so that way we're not just using the IDA's money, it could be with grant.
And we've experienced that before where we did, and then there was like votes to send that back because we didn't.
Right, and I think that's how you move forward, is realizing this isn't going to work, we have to keep going. And as much as
done that.
I
And one of the first meetings with this group, we spent quite a bit of time, like, why has that happened? Why have we gotten 80% down the road and then just abandoned the projects? And what can we do this time to make sure we actually get it across the finish line and make it happen? And so there's been a lot of discussion about how we do that, and one of them was the structure, make sure we have, IDA, LCDC, the county, like 2 legislators on it, just make sure we have equal representation so that everybody's aware of what's happening. And we also are taking a little bit different approach in that we're not gonna narrow it down to one site, because in the past, what would happen is they narrow it down to one site. And then maybe that community wasn't so eager for it, and they ran into a roadblock there, or they were counting on an anchor tenant who maybe backed out. So, can we do this and have maybe 3 sites in different communities? So if one says, no, okay, this other community might be more interested in letting it happen. So we're trying to kind of work through that process so that we don't repeat those cycles, because, yeah, I was fully aware of that as well, but it seems like every little while we get close, but never seem to make it happen.
And it obviously is, incurs a lot of soft cost in terms of our organization and your responsibilities and what you all are doing, so.
Yeah.
Just wanted to understand that, and I appreciate the explanation. One last question. If it proceeds to the step where, seeking grant funding or incurring costs from a consulting or legal or architectural, whatever it is, what entity of Naturally Lewis makes that? Or is that a county decision? I just want to understand where that links.
We haven't fully vetted that yet, and that's one of the things that we wanna talk about too, is like what entity is gonna basically own this thing, and and how does the funding get to them, and so that is one of the steps that they've outlined that we've got to work through. Certainly the county's gonna be a big partner in that, but also the IDA and LCDC have to work hand in hand in that as well. There's different roles for each of them in the development of the business plan, so.
And what we've talked about so far is in that committee, what we would do is the committee would give a presentation to the joint boards and the county. And then like Joe has said before, if the Naturally Lewis board were to come to the IDA, the way that it's been set up is you wouldn't do what Naturally Lewis says, but take that into consideration like they would if, say, the finance committee. Does it mean you have to say yes because the Naturally Lewis or this committee has said this is what we would like to do, but just give it some consideration, knowing the process that's gone through, because the committee will give a presentation. Currently, we have a map that has Cassie and her office has gone through and they looked at, are there deed restrictions, proximity to infrastructure, what infrastructure is currently there, topography, wetlands, brownfield, all of that. So they created a scale and then it's scored and then it's red, orange, yellow, green based on that. And so then we took that map and we narrowed it down to the 6. But then we discussed each of the 6, like the pros and cons of each. And some of them, like Tim said, is like, well, I'm not sure if this community will go for that. This piece of property may not be as maybe it's not green, but the community is really willing to work with us, and because of the state that it's in, we know that we could get grant funding to make this a viable one. I'm just making that thought up, but just hypothetically, those are the thought processes that we're going through that we would bring to the different boards before we make any decisions.
I think I'm helpful, and I think what I'm just trying to understand is, as our roles changed, as Naturally Lewis, as that transition was done, understanding what the responsibility and involvement of the IDA is, or if these decisions are gonna be made and really the IDA's only participation, I guess, is from a pilot and.
So you're looking for a decision chart, essentially, right? Like how are they made and who follows down and do what steps?
I'm not trying to drill in that deep,
No, that
I'm
makes
just
sense.
trying to understand because in my tenure on this board,
Yeah.
in 7 years, I've watched this come through and we were, I would say the lead agency, if they're a lead board in those decisions, so I'm just trying to understand, because while we can describe what naturally Lewis is and where the responsibilities lie, I still don't always understand.
Well, and to Tim's point, I don't think enough progress has been made, if I'm correct, to decide that structure yet.
Yep.
But we will certainly have to have that.
Right,
So one of the sites, that they talked about was the Cheese Hill property, and that is a brownfield. So right now, the county is not foreclosed on it, it's just sitting there dormant. The county is not foreclosed on it because who would own it, right? We don't really wanna take it. There was some talk about, well, that would have to be owned by the LCDC, and they would have to form a separate corporation, which I think is on their agenda next. To do that, and if they're willing to do that, and then the county would go ahead and start the procedure to foreclose it to get it to the LCDC. Not as a primary business park site, but as a property that if we encounter a business where that's a great fit, it's ready to go. Because right now, that's a 5 or 6 year process to get it ready to go.
But then the last one, first side is ready to go, we have a DRI grant for beautification, so that could be on the list too. And then some other properties. Thank you.
Yeah, so as I said, the MPI pilot was filed, besides the call yesterday, which was just yesterday afternoon from the town of Lionsdale. Gonna be following up questions for us about that and, answering some questions that the town supervisor had regarding the pilot for that project. So no major update. Community Bank Money Market, so I was approached by Community Bank about a week and a half ago, and I finally sat down with them. Just Tuesday, I believe it was. They have offered us, because they had noticed we transfer out, so when we get the pilot checks in, we're transferring them to New York class to get the better interest rate, transferring them back, sending the checks out. They had noticed all of these large sum transfers in and out of our account at Community, and they've offered us an option of, rather than transferring that money to New York class, holding it in our existing money market account at Community Bank. They would update the rate every Wednesday, so it wouldn't be a daily rate change, it would be a weekly rate change minus 0.1% of whatever the New York class rate is. To keep the money local at Community Bank versus sending it out to New York class. It's an option up for discussion here at the board, if we wanted to keep more of our money local, I know that's kind of always been the goal of all of the entities, of how do we support our local banks. So it is an option instead of using New York class to have, and it would also, I mean, our current money market rate is only 1.3%, so any of the other funds that we hold in our money market account would also be earning that New York class rate on a regular instance without the transfers.
How much do we hold in the regular money market?
Our regular money market rate now is sitting about 450,000.
Okay.
And New York class, after all the pilot stuff, once all the pilot stuff has come out at this point, we're about 1.46 million in New York class.
So the 0.1 difference,
Oh,
is
way
that?
better to have it. No, it's way better to have it in the money market, because then the
Right.
400 starts getting 3.45.
And any
And
money,
they stop with the difference.
Right, yeah. and any money that we, again, I mean, we try to keep as much money in that money market
Yeah.
that we need for our regular
So
operations and expenses.
they always leave a 10 basis point
It's
difference.
always a 10 basis point.
How's that help them?
Well, it's almost 5 million that we don't hold there for them to earn interest on,
Okay, fair enough.
so,
so they reached out to municipalities a year ago. with
Okay.
this, And when I was on board at Town Denver, we made a decision that, I'm not saying these numbers equal what it was then.
Yeah.
That was almost, probably even a year and a half ago.
okay,
I'd have to go back a couple minutes to figure it out, but, the question I have is this exclusive? Like, they're saying we have to have a minimum balance and.
no, there's no minimum balance and there's no limit on
So why can't
transfers.
they provide that right now with the $450,000?
Because they want the bulk of
They
what's in
want
New York
balances,
class,
it's-
yeah, they want the balance.
I understand and I'm
Yeah.
all about keeping money local where we
Yeah.
can, but it's also, you know.
What stops us from doing it anyway?
Exactly, that's my question.
Yeah, I would have to ask them, I don't think they want the bulk of the balance that's at New York class for their own.
They don't
Because
have
I'm
vision into that.
No, but
They
they're
don't know
not,
what we have.
they're not offering this to everybody. The money market rate.
I understand,
Yeah.
but they don't know what we have in my class.
They know
The-
from what goes
the
in.
transfer
Yeah, what goes in and back and forth.
Gotcha, because it
So-
does have to come back before.
Yes.
There isn't a lot of, it's not difficult to make those transfers out of my class.
It's usually, no, it's not difficult, it does require a second approval,
Yeah.
and it's usually a 2 or 3 day turnaround from the time it's
Right.
requested to come back in. Still no fees transferring in and out, I mean, I can ask them. What is the minimum you would require us to have in our money market in order to obtain this rate? If that minimum's $1 million, then we could still leave the balance of what's in New York class there and transfer the
But here's
difference.
a question for you. What's the protection offered in a money market account versus in your class as far as bankruptcy is concerned?
So they have, the IDA, we get collateral statements from M&T Bank, so it's sent out to other banks to insure us over
Okay.
that FDIC $250,000 limit.
Yeah.
So we already are protected through those
Okay.
other disbursements.
Okay.
But yes, so that's what they're offering. I don't know if there's a specific minimum. I did ask about, you know, are we limited to the number of transactions in and out? Just so I know, because I know during pilot time, there's a lot of transfers in and out of those accounts. And there were no limits on transfers for things like that, so,
I think if you look at, let's say the limit is $1 million.
yeah,
We put the $1 million and get the 400 earning 3.45 as well.
yeah.
And then the rest earning 3.5.
Right.
So.
And with money, I mean, with New York class, obviously, that's a daily fluctuation
Mhm.
in that account. Right now, well, as I said there, it was 3.55% when they sent that out over to me, yesterday is when I got this letter. You know, at the start of the year, it was 1.45. I mean, it was to the point where I was like, we should pull all of our money, you know, put it someplace else, but it rebounded. So every week they'll readjust based on that previous week's average on New York class. So it will be going up and down in similar fashion, but, for the bulk of the money that we have in our money market, that's not earning much. So if there's a minimum, I can let you guys know, or you can say, hey, if these are the amounts that will approve for you to move to.
Well, if it's a minimum, then we do the minimum, but if it's
Yeah.
more than that, I mean, to me mathematically, it makes more sense, it works out that we have it all in the money market as opposed to your class.
Yeah.
But we don't have to keep it that way.
Right.
It's a big difference. Couple $100. So what would you like from us?
I guess just in your brain for right now.
Okay.
I'll get more information to have on that for the next meeting, and then if we want to make a resolution or at least get board approval for whatever limits, then we can get it at the next meeting. Gotcha, I think that works. Redemption Center, so that's kind of been on our back burner for a bit. Mr. Nagy did pick up a copy of the appraisal in mid-February. I had sent it to him months earlier. He has been busy, unfortunately, with his wife's health. So he picked it up. I followed up with him last week to see if he had any answers. He was still talking to his attorney, financial advisor, things like that to make decisions before moving forward. So I don't have an update on that, essentially. The library reached out for another update, which I just kind of told them where I was at. Okay. So we're getting some progress, slow progress though, so maybe by the next meeting I'll have, I guess, more of an update as to where that stands, but I did include that as our committed funds, should we decide to move forward with that project. With Stevens Block, library, whatever combination of entities we need to move that forward. EIP, or is it EIP, so this is the battery storage facility that's been proposed in the town of Bragg. Joanne and I met with them and Roxanne, about a week and a half ago. They were kind of shocked by the moratorium that's passed in the town of Bragg. So they were asking us as the representatives of the IDA how to try to get this project off the ground. I did attend that meeting when they passed the moratorium, just for my own personal knowledge of what was going on in that town. the biggest concern for the town, and I think any town looking at battery storage, is the idea of fire. So this is not a lithium ion storage battery facility, which I think is kind of the item they need to push home to the town. It's a zinc hybrid, which is significantly less flammable. So we just kind of talked through it, gave them some basic recommendations of how to approach the town with that idea at hand, you know, express the concerns that I heard at that meeting regarding not just fire, but potential soil and water contamination, proximity to the Adirondack Park, things of that nature. They've not submitted any sort of application at this point for a pilot, but just so it's on our radar, as I'm expecting it's gonna move forward at some point, whether the town holds it or New York State comes in and says it's happening.
There's a gas station in Greg, right?
There it is.
Talk about flammable.
I will say for one of the pilots or one of the renewables, this is a very hidden from sight project at least based on where they're planning, so it's not gonna be as eyesore as some of the more recent ones that have been proposed. So I think it's just, there was a lot of pushback at that meeting for sure. It was a very heated discussion.
What was the main reason? The fire?
The main reason is the fire concern.
It's literally not flammable. Like,
Yes.
that's research piece.
So, and that's what I said too, that, you know, if you wanna push this forward and get public support, you're really gonna have to drive that point.
That's okay.
Because they're not getting the education. They're pulling from other fires that have happened from lithium battery facilities. So either way, just so it's on everybody's,
May I make a suggestion of
Yep.
the idea? One of the issues is town approval and pilot agreements. And the problem is that they could sell out to NIPA for 51% and not pay taxes on these.
yeah,
And how is the town gonna make a cost benefit determination as they're going through the approval process? So I think the sooner you can get them to commit to a host pilot agreement and a pilot, the better because once the town's gotten through the approval process, there's nothing left for them to make them to come to the table.
Yeah.
So when we meet with folks like this, I would say, even before you go in front of the town of Gregor project, it would be helpful for you to have an agreement outlined with us.
Yeah.
Just a thought, because that would then give them, because there's lots of rumors about what will they pay in taxes and what's the benefit to the community from this, and the biggest benefit is gonna be a pilot and a host community agreement.
We do wanna be careful though, because the community sees that as stop selling us out. So
Well,
stop looking at the project as dollar signs.
Yeah.
So we just need to be really handle this one with velvet gloves, and Cheyenne and I have tried our damnedest for the last 2 years, because they kept wanting to meet with us and we're like, you need to meet with the community. They send us the participation plan, that's great, still need to get out in front of the community before it gets out in front of them without them getting it out in front of them.
But they could circumvent the town, right? Is that what you were saying, Tim?
What do you mean by circumvent? Like so right now, New York State Office of Renewable Energy Siting, ORES, does not cite battery energy storage or bulk energy storage projects, but they do cite wind, solar, and now transmission lines. And it will happen that because the battery energy storage and any other bulk energy storage is lucrative to them and it's needed for their CLCPA, okay? So it is highly likely that ORES will take that under their lovely umbrella and take it away from the municipalities.
Okay.
So the municipalities are struggling right now, which I can see why EIP was shocked, but honestly, if they were more involved, if they would have done more participation like we had told them to do, they wouldn't have been shocked. The town of Gregg, when Cheyenne and I were notified about the project in July of 2023, and I had the email, thank the Lord, because they questioned that we notified them, which is just crazy to me. But the town of Gregg notified them, FYI, it's coming down the pipeline, you don't have any zoning regs. So they went, they did a moratorium, they put in zoning regs, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. The problem is that the community didn't raise the alarm or become involved until the NYSERDA bulk energy bid was put out this last fall, which elevated it to the top. So now that they put in a bid for funding to put in this project, the community has fought back, and really the only thing that the town could have done Because it really wasn't addressed properly in the comprehensive plan, which as you know, zoning is dependent on a comprehensive plan, so if you have zoning that's not relevant to the comprehensive plan, it's kind of worthless. That's the main reason why they put a moratorium in there, so that they can adopt their updated comprehensive plan, which is set to happen in the next month or so. And work on revising their laws again, so we've advised them that as much as you'd like to completely ban these things, which. More power to you, we wish that we could give that advice. It's terrible advice, it's one of the worst things you can do, because then you won't have any regulations in place when the state comes back and says. It's actually considered a public utility, you can't outright ban a public utility, you can't even outright ban adult entertainment. So, we're trying. Yeah, now you're with.
Give another story.
Yeah. Keep that one with me. So it's hard, it's a hard pill for these towns to swallow, and believe me, it's a hard pill for us to even say those things, because we want them to be able to fully control it, but it's just reality. It's like if they ban it, the state's gonna come back and say you can't do that, and then you're gonna have no regulations whatsoever in place. So we're actually bringing in Bridget O'Toole, she's one of the 3 attorneys that really practices and specializes in renewable energy transmission line permits and all that fun stuff. She's coming to the Krogan Volunteer Fire Department on March 30th. So I just recommend, if you're interested in knowing more about the process and how cumbersome and how antiquated it is and how really New York State says they're home rule, but they're really not. I recommend coming, listening, asking questions, because I do think that it would.
Will that be publicized or shared with other municipalities?
It is, I sent to all municipalities and their planning boards and ZBAs, and we posted on Facebook, and we're.
But to be clear, there's the planning process and the approvals of the project.
Yeah.
Which right now is still within the town's purview jurisdiction. The issue that is not is the taxation issue.
Okay.
New York State has passed several laws that have changed that. One is the 575B, which is a cash flow model for taxation. And the other one is they're allowing projects like this to bring NIPA in, and then we don't even know what that taxation model would look like. So I guess my mind is, how could a community consider anything? Right? Why would I let you build a house if you are not gonna pay any taxes on it, right? So you've got a taxation issue which is now changed.
Okay.
The whole conversation, and it's not selling out for money by any means, but as a community, we have no idea what the implications of these things are from that financial.
Taxation standpoint. When does that become clear? Do we know?
Well, that's what I'm suggesting to these developers, that if you come here and you even want to have an audience, you even want to let this slip, you better tell us what you're planning to bring to the table.
Right, which is fair, that.
Which none of them are doing. They want to hold that conversation at the very end of it, right? So I'm just suggesting that we probably want to flip that script and say, as part of your, if you call any of us and want to have this, then be prepared to tell us what it means. You know, there's several large projects being proposed, none of them actually have applications in front of the town, but because they're waiting for NYSERDA, it will happen in April. But not a single one of them have offered a peep of what that means.
Well, Megan and I talked to them about that, we talked about like the education piece, for them, we're not going to talk to the community, that's on them, but Megan brought up. The fire is the concern, so educate them about that, and the local fire departments are volunteers. And they depend on mostly donations and fundraising to get equipment, so if they maybe. Provided training, specific training related to, if you're telling me that it's, very rare for a fire, but what if there is? You need to provide training, equipment, all that stuff. We talked about how many jobs will it create.
Yeah.
They said monitoring of these systems could occur remotely. We said maybe have it a local person who lives here, or pay the town, have their employees do all that and provide training, so.
For the benefits on passive.
Yes, and
Right.
show that we care about the community as people and families who live here.
Just like we do the cost benefit analysis for our place,
Right.
so yeah. Which, why would they not want to, is a question. Do they think they can just not worry about it?
Well, they wanted to know from us, what are the questions the community will have, and we said, go ask them.
Well, right, like, and-
I can tell you that they don't wanna talk about money, that's,
Right.
I heard that clear, any conversations with money, they are blistering.
They pretty much, in the conversation with them, they said, well, are they aware of the financial benefit? In fact, I said, I
They
don't
don't care.
care.
No,
I hate to
they
say
don't
this,
care.
town of Greg is, I'm not saying any of our townships are wealthy towns, but town of Greg seems to be one of the least suffering towns in our county, so we can't dangle this financial carrot in front of them and think it's going to have the impact that you're hoping it's going to have. It needs to be more reassurance, safety, they don't, So we'll see how that conversation moves forward for them with the town. I did reach out to Bob, who is the supervisor at the town of Greg. Because New York State, when Jen and I went to the economic conference last month in Albany, New York State through NYSERDA is providing essentially an analyst free of charge for towns to go through any plans that are submitted, to review them, see what that zoning is, like to really help the town stamp out what needs to be in place. So I passed that on to him because I knew they were going through this plan for themselves for their zoning comprehensive planning. And he said, oh, that sounds great, but wasn't sure he wanted the free help from the state. So that's how my conversation with him kind of started and ended on that note. But so yeah, I think
To his point, he's getting crucified for literally everything.
Yeah,
So I feel for him.
yeah,
I'm sure he's just trying to create, like, no, you're gonna need a third party to review this, it's already necessary now.
yeah,
Thanks, but.
yeah.
So these projects are all in planning and contingent on NYSERDA funding?
That is
Yes, I've reached out to almost all of them and they're pretty, and NYSERDA, and I said, would it be possible for any of these projects to move forward without an award, and he said, highly unlikely.
So they haven't even started the New York ISO process.
I know that the AKC, Advanced Compressed Air, has not. I don't know about EIP or the Energy Dome, but the awards we expect to be announced late April, early May. And at that point, I know that at least the HydroStore project in Croton, they're gonna start boring, which is millions of dollars.
And they can't sell anything on local benefit from power outages or impacts, they're not connected to the local grid.
I don't know what they're.
I believe all of these, the tie-in is meant to be on the KV line. That they
The 345 line does not provide local,
no,
it's a highway, it's not local.
right. So I believe all of them are.
I think that's their next challenge, is they may have the site for the actual project, but the connection, the easements that they need for the connections to the KV are gonna be a little.
Well, the Rapid Act just changed that.
The transmission line connections. But I'm talking about actually getting the physical easements from the property owners, they don't wanna talk at all about that.
The Rapid Act, I believe, just allowed them to take whatever they need.
They say that, but I don't know if they will do that.
We have 3 clients that are holding out.
I was gonna say
No.
Well, so that's why we just did the last board meeting passed that opposing the Rapid Act, because I believe that is in the Rapid Act. To the stream, they're calling it streamlining the process for interconnection, but my reading of it is allowing them imminent domain.
Yeah.
So.
Now, Sherry Lewis, BRI. The building.
We have been working with BCA, we did a walkthrough the other day. We're completing the process, the forms with the state, so it's moving forward.
Okay.
We did reach out to the landlord and he said. They are still interested in selling the building, but he didn't really know what to offer as a price, but when we looked back, the appraisal that was done. There is a line item in there that says. We have first option to purchase at the appraisal price, so.
That's 72,000 or 75, something like this.
I thought it was 80,
Yeah,
80 to 90, somewhere in there, I don't know off the top of
So
my
I'm
head.
gonna send it back to them again, it's only done a few years ago, so I would say it's still relevant, there's no point.
It certainly hasn't appreciated.
No,
If anything.
it probably hasn't appreciated to the point where it's gonna
There's another bend in the structure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
He's trying to take that one versus us having everything.
Exactly. Literally.
I'm nervous sometimes walking in there, I'm like, is today the day that crack just
Uh-huh.
is up?
Alright, save second place.
Okay. I don't know if Joanne wants to take it, doesn't matter who takes the lead on it, if anybody's on Facebook and has seen it, please, by second place, so we. Got a really great email just a couple of days ago, from Troy and the family about their initiatives moving forward and plans they have in place. They did sit down with Jenna, which was good, to get some more guidance. Again, I did get an email from Judy, who handles their accounting, confirming that our wire information is still the same for deposits on the property. Haven't got anything yet, but
Yeah, that's a delay tactic.
yeah, hopefully, but either way, the plan in place, we're happy to see a plan in place. You know, it's making, I think everybody reading this made me feel better, seeing their engagement on social media with clients, not just for the Save Second Place, but the Mug Club, the different running events, you know, all of those things. I'm hopeful really likes the spark. It's my understanding as well, Troy has left his full-time job to start brewing full-time, has contracts already in place with some local vendors, so I think things are heading in the right direction. I'm anticipating some property payments and then equipment, again, we've given them till the end of May to kind of as a deferment on that loan. So just an update that I wanted to share with everybody from the email that we've received.
And I think they've had I've had conversations so I know that they've had conversations with their personal and professional advisors about, okay, this is where you are, this is how you're gonna pay your bills, these are some ideas that you can do. And they have some good ideas have come out of that, and since I have learned of those conversations, now I see the social media push and it's, they really do seem to have a plan to move forward. And, you know, before I think, you know, many people have been in this position, they were afraid, so they did nothing. Now they can see some light at the end of the tunnel and now they're moving forward. And at least if it doesn't work, they can say they did everything that they do to try to keep doors open.
They had distribution and local
Yeah,
establishments and.
so Tony Harper's and Jeb's, I believe, is what they highlighted in that, and Elk, sorry, working on Tony Harper's. I reached out to a couple different restaurants as well that I know carry some local beer and say, hey, they're, you know, brewing again, so maybe try to get some on tap. Whatever to do, you know, to help out with that, I think. I'm hopeful, I'm feeling more hopeful.
Well, when you get your product in other places that.
And they're working on. Jenna, what is the name of the equipment they're looking to get to start canning? Yes, so they're.
Well, the LCDC is considering a Launch List County grant for them at the meeting after this.
The $15,000.
The 15,000.
Which thanks to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that insight.
Yes, we have the funding, this is like our last shot to get it out the door, they fit all their requirements. They've been asking for assistance, so they check the boxes, I'm hopeful that it will go through it.
At the Naturally Lewis executive meeting with Joanne, was that yesterday? I had suggested that the first food truck event for Friday be at Troy's facility, as a thought.
Well, except we can't do that because it's supposed to get to communities rather than a business.
But I
Because
thought we said that if you could help a business out at the same time. Well, how do you, so as a restriction, you mean?
not as a restriction, but the idea is to bring your family to a local community park or public place
Oh,
and not,
Whereas everything else is gonna be there.
Maybe an after party, got it.
right.
well, it's just what it's about, like, we kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, working.
Yes, that we could just.
Hey, very well.
So, no, but I just thought that was a good idea to have it and facilitate a business. That'd be a decent revenue, but I switched.
Truck Fridays, is there any alcohol
Oh, there's a
There is,
wine truck I
there's
saw
a-
once.
Right, and I think there's one that was like the Traveling Sisters or
Yeah, that's
something like
sold.
that.
That's, I just saw.
But they have come to it, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's an argument there that if the space is adequate for the number of participants, attendees, parking would probably be. That's the thing, I mean, I don't have a problem with it being near a business, I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a good thing. Because it's not that they are, attendees are required
right.
to purchase from them, but it's bringing
People.
awareness.
We just have to be careful of promoting a single business rather than a.
Well, we want to be promoting the business they're on, we're just, this is a
This
location.
is where it is.
It's us, and he's got enough room for all those trucks, it'd be a more cozy event. Yeah, parking might be an issue, but it's summertime, people walk, I mean, I'm just saying the amount of revenue that could bring to him. In just one day is going to be helpful, it's worth considering.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but he could also, as a business owner, do that himself.
Do a food truck,
I think-
well, so he's doing food
Yes.
truck, but I don't think he's
Yeah.
got the ability to
Yeah.
coordinate something like this.
He can also go to the food truck Fridays with his own,
Yes.
under his license, he can get a special permit for
as much-
off-site sales.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, like, I think it would be a cool initiative, but then what's to stop every other member business that we have saying, well, we're gonna do a food
Yeah.
truck Friday?
It's
There's a lot.
And he's also.
So it's kind of just, why are we going to Hook and Ladder, why are we going to Montague?
You're not gonna look at ladder, I mean. That's way too much time. But, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, my other, I take my kids there to these food truck Fridays, just thinking of their layout, I don't know that my kids are too rowdy to.
They were,
in that
I'll tell you
parking
what, if you run there in
lot.
the summer, there's a lot of families, when it's
At
summer,
Marketplace?
out-
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
outside.
Right, but I'm thinking you got all the food trucks there, and you got all the parking there,
I gotcha.
I'm a little worried about my kids running around with cars.
Is the school parking garage on the same street? The bus garage? Oh, crap, this was,
So I've got one thing on this, and I think all this energy he has behind it now is great. In my mind, I mean, that's what he should have been doing from the get-go, right? So, I mean, did I hear it correctly that he didn't have a business plan to start with, or it was?
If we've suggested that he go to SBDC and create a plan and even though you're on step 2 or 3 now, you could still create new plans.
Right, but my point is,
He did,
as.
he did have a plan, I think the plan has changed over time. I have continued to tell him to utilize the SBDC as plans change. The
So-
market has changed.
My idea is that as a board, to be more proactive to prevent this from happening again, because. I mean, we really let this guy dig himself a hole, right? So, I think it's great now that he's got energy behind it and has a plan and he's moving in the right direction, it seems. But I mean, I asked the question of the board, what can we do in the future to prevent this from happening?
Yeah, I want to see a plan, and I know we don't control LCDC, but I would hope they would say. Yes, we'll grant you this $15,000 loan, but maybe make it contingent on the updated plan or just something.
He submitted a business plan with his application.
An updated one though?
And typically we do, and I have heard Jenna, when she speaks with customers to say. This is wonderful, but maybe you can come back at the next round because you really need to go to a plan, here are some resources available to you.
No, his application was actually pretty thorough for the 15,000. I mean, it's
And that's
Yeah.
reimbursed, right, Jenna, to matching that he has to.
it's reimbursement based,
Yeah,
so
so
he
it's
has to
not big enough
upfront
for
it
this
in order.
I know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's not our board and I don't have a say in it, would I approve it? No, because he's not current, so, but like, that's just that whole philosophy in my head, you're letting me dig further, but.
Well, so I make the same point, right, but to Jenna's point, that this is just gonna go away. If this gives him some sort of a shot. It
He has-
doesn't cost us anything,
He's
right?
been
And we
looking
want it to
for
succeed.
he's been looking for assistance, this is our way of assisting him,
Yeah.
that checks the box.
Jenna, my only question then is like, his fiscal management, can we look at that and go, what is happening? Cause as I sit and do just basic math, it doesn't make sense to me. And I could be completely off,
That's where I I've guided him towards the small business development center to say, they have tools for existing businesses.
Yeah.
To help you look at, okay, the last year, what's the big picture here and how can we change things moving forward? I do think he's working on that with some other people in the community as well. I don't have that expertise to be able to sit down with him and talk him through that. But I've definitely guided him towards those resources.
And I think when she was working full-time and
Yeah,
raising a family, and she was working, like, they were a bit overwhelmed and they didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
Now that he's been able to dedicate more time to this, he's had some clarity and he's pointed himself in a direction.
Wait, is he involved in the financials of his business or is just his mother?
No.
It's
So
mostly,
that's what I mean,
it's mostly his aunt
right, okay.
who handles everything and is his accountant.
I think back of like when we deferred payments. You know, we didn't really look into it too much, we wanted to help them.
Yeah.
So deferred payments. Maybe in those scenarios, maybe we ask for some financial projections,
Yeah.
how is this really going to help them? So we can make a more educated decision, because really, we deferred payments and allowed him to get into.
right.
Right, and those projections would have maybe helped them go.
And exactly, we're helping them help themselves.
Which I would assume were being done, right, because that's how you.
And that's the thing, yeah, we, you know, I think we all assumed that, but maybe that wasn't.
I think that's a good idea as well, same thing with any loans like this moving forward, you know, we ask. I know we're not a typical lending place, but have something more standard in place that we need for our own reassurance.
And for their sake,
the right
more
decision.
so, right?
And I also talked, and you would probably agree with me, Jessica, but on the Harrisville Bank property transaction, I would really like the idea to adopt some sort of standard basic real estate purchase contract form that outlines, once we've accepted the proposal based on the financial benefit of the community, whatever that might be, here's the purchase price, here's your deposit, here is, you know, the explanation of inspections, walkthrough dates, et cetera, because the Harrisville Bank property dragged on. Not that anything was wrong, but if there were timelines in place, it would have ushered that to happen much sooner and been less of a hassle based on the number of walkthroughs that Joanne gave. That should have just been outlined that this is what you're allowed, period.
Like multiple walkthroughs?
Well, they had to measure things, right, so we need something in writing. I think, you know, that there's a 24-hour window for a final walkthrough and that's that, you have 2 weeks for inspections, that's that, if you miss it. Too bad, you lose your deposit if you want to back out. So I think there needs to be a basic on real estate transactions moving forward that makes it more concise and holds them more accountable as purchasers, because we get nothing from them. We do.
Alright, what else we got? Anything else? Everybody go on the 7th and say.
Yes.
I bought a mug. I did buy a mug.
Oh, you
I'm
bought
not gonna be there Saturday because I'm in volleyball tournament all the way up in
I
Schenectady, but
wanted
I
so
bought a mug.
badly to reply to that, you better name it the IDA.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I don't think. The little same voice.
In person on Saturday.
Well, I will, that's my family.
To the COLIDA.
Well, they want it to be named, right? I'm like, what do it? Buddy.
Yeah. People call the item. It's okay. We know.
You know what's good for you. Alright, anything else? Next meeting on April 2nd, Joe again won't be here, so it'll be me. Do we have anybody who
I
knows
will not be
can't make
here
it?
in
Okay.
April.
Okay, anybody else missing? Will we still have that, so 1, 2, 3, yeah, we'll have 4, Jerry, you good, right?
And also, I would like to re-encourage you that when you respond, and please check the send RSVP, so Amy and I are not scrambling at 9 o'clock at night to.
It said send, I thought I just said yes, it tells you to say actually send something.
Well, let's get a respond to.
Did you get a
I
response?
thought it goes on the calendar.
I don't get that, that's exactly it. It's going on the calendar.
Some people uncheck that box, so they hold it
Oh,
for
okay.
themselves, but we don't know it.
Yeah.
That's
I
okay.
just forward it.
Oh, it's just.
Just send it to me in the snail mail, I'll send it back.
Send it over and I'll send it back.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Darlene, or second, all in favor?